everybody, this is Tony.
And this is Paul, and we're coming at you from the Friends for Life podcast, where we discuss the ongoing lives and issues of people with developmental disabilities to spark positive change in the field.
And we have a lot of fun doing it.
Making sure that individuals are reaching the goals they have set for themselves. That's one of the many goals of Assured Health Services. If you're looking for a residential care provider or searching for ADS services, Assured Health is your go-to place. Assured Health, helping others succeed. Learn more at assuredhealthohio.com or call 419-442-8066.
So, Maria, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming out here to the Tech Fest. And what are you doing out here today? It's beautiful. Well, it's a day. It's a little cloudy out there, but what brings you here to the Tech Fest today?
Oh, well, I'm here to share some innovative technology that I think is breakthrough for people with intellectual and developmental disabilities. We've used it in my own family. That's where it got started. And I just want to give families out there hope, because it just don't give up. There's technology that's coming. Don't be afraid of it. Embrace it. And I love these tech events. I get to talk to so many people.
Well, we just had this conversation not long ago about how when Tony and I started doing this podcast a few years ago, everyone had this big scare about, having the technology in their homes, remote supports, and now the whole conversation's changed around that. People don't even really seem to worry about it anymore. Right. And now we're having people more concerned about things like AI and this and that. So it's always a changing landscape. I don't think people will ever figure out that it changes. Humans are pretty bad at figuring that out. So what drew you to making technology that's going to assist people with disabilities?
Well, it was really my own family. I had a great career in Medicare and Medicaid policy, and I was a social worker for 20-some years. And at the same time, I had two of my boys had special needs. Okay. The oldest was born legally blind, and the only thing he really could see was a computer screen. Mm-hmm. So he was using technology before he was using his legs to walk, right? And he was okay. I mean, he had some issues, but he was all right. And then about 2 years younger than him was his little brother with autism. Nothing worked for him. And he was kind of going off the rails when they forced him to graduate early. And I had no way of explaining the world to him in a way he could understand, and he had no way of communicating to me in a way I could understand or anyone else. So I lost my last job, and I said, okay, I got to figure this out. And instead of putting him in an institution, which he was qualified for at that point, I asked his big brother to drop out of college for software design and move into my basement and figure out how to build an app that could explain the world to my son and that would give him options for communicating with me. And we focused on three things. Okay. I wanted to know what he was experiencing internally because he couldn't self-assess. He couldn't self-report. So the three things are, what are you doing? What are you thinking? And what are you feeling? Mm-hmm. And if there is any way you can communicate that to me, it can help me figure out, well, you're not right. Mm-hmm. You think you're okay. You think you feel okay, but you're bleeding, son.
Yeah.
So it gave me a starting point. Mm-hmm. I also discovered through MyGuide, which is what his big brother ended up designing. Okay. And I discovered that he had asthma. Whoa. Because he was reporting, I want fresh air. And I started putting two and two together and realizing, sometimes he runs out of the house for no reason. Mm-hmm. It's because he can't breathe. Wow. And so we started using MyGuide to check in with him periodically. Do you want fresh air? And we actually had to work on different ways of him communicating that he wanted fresh air because he doesn't respond with yes and no.
Okay.
The word yes means everything is okay. And the word no means it's the end of the world. And neither of those answers applied. So we changed it to boss or Pepsi because he loves being the boss. That means yes. And he hates Pepsi. That means no. So we configured this entire app based on how he interacts with the world. And we discovered that he was reporting that he wanted fresh air. At the same time, his smart ring was reporting that his pulse ox was low. And so we were able to put 2 and 2 together and then prevent him from eloping and running out of the house. Sometimes if he didn't have a chance to process all of that and he would just run out of the house anyway, we started using Angel Sense. Which is another partnering technology. And Angel Sense is this little clip we clip on his shoe or his shirt, and it has a 2-way speaker. They even have it on a watch now, too.
Yeah.
So I could call out to him, and he could talk to me, and I could hear what was going on. So what we started with in my family was completely groundbreaking. So after 3 years, he was no longer eligible for an institution. He could communicate. He wasn't self-injuring. He wasn't eloping. He was on the right medications. And he was reporting consistently what he was doing, what he was thinking, and what he was feeling. And now we have a great family relationship instead of a warden-prisoner relationship or a caregiver-patient relationship. We can actually be a family.
Yeah.
And that has just grown. That was in 2017. And so now I applied my previous work experience in regulations to figure out how families can get all of this paid for.
Yeah.
And in Ohio, what's really great about the waivers is they actually provide assistive technology support. So you don't have to outsource everything to a group home or everything to a remote support provider.
Right.
Families can actually design their own solution, and we will teach you how to use that technology for yourself.
That is awesome. First off, shout out to Angel Sense because we had them on last year at TechFest. Great company, awesome people. How long did it take to develop MyGuide? Like seemed like, for me, that seemed like it would take ages.
Right. So funny story. So I made him drop out of college and move into my basement. And so he quickly developed a prototype that worked just for us. And then he made it so that I could program it, and I'm not a tech person.
Wow,
so he was like, all right, if you can make a Facebook page, if you can make a post with a picture and text, you can design your own MyGuide app. And I was like, okay, we'll do that. So it could have only taken a couple of months, but I kept saying, oh, but do this, oh, but do this, oh, but do this. So by the time he got to version like 5 or 6, I think it had been a year.
Okay.
And I started showing it to other people I had worked with in the industry, other clinicians and special ed teachers and occupational therapists and behavioral analysts, ABA therapists. And they started having all these ideas. Well, could we put mom's voice in here? Or could we add a YouTube video to incentivize them? Or could we have the potty training song that he likes? And so he started adding all of these features until we got to version 10 was the full prototype release. And we had, I think, 20, 30 users at the time, and we were just getting Medicaid coverage, so families didn't have to pay for it. Yeah. And I said, we need something more robust, like for a lot of users at the same time, so it doesn't crash or slow down.
Right.
He said, okay, version 10 is going to be for like 1,000 users simultaneously. I'm like, oh my gosh, we'll never have 1,000 users. And then like 2 months later,
you had
so it took about a year to build 10 versions, and then it took 2 years to build version 11. So we've just released version 11, and it will simultaneously support 1 million users.
Oh, beautiful.
So I'm so excited. So that's kind of what brings me out to other states that have requested us. I do get asked a lot, well, what made you decide to go to Ohio? Besides, I love OH, and I've got family here. There are benefits here that actually help families. In other states, they're kind of still trying to figure it out.
Yes.
But we generally see in the Medicaid and waiver market, there's kind of two schools of camp. One is outsource everything to a geek squad because technology is hard and confusing and scary. Or what we see more of coming out in Ohio is let's start with what you're comfortable with. Let's get you some help. Let's teach you how to use this. So MyGuide can send reports to your remote support provider or your residential provider, your day program, your school, or your mom or your doctor or your neighbor. You're in control. And so families are able to design their own solutions and have that continued control. And that's really hard for families to give up.
Definitely. Wow.
The Reliable Drug and Alcohol Testing Clinic is a leading provider and convenient source of pre-employment and occupational type testing. Their clinic provides services to a wide range of private businesses, healthcare facilities, and municipal and county courts. Reliable is an independent, locally owned clinic. As a result, they provide their services at a lower cost than the major hospitals, have faster turnaround times on test results, and eliminate the long waits typically incurred at these larger facilities. To learn more, visit reliabledrugtest.com.
Yeah, I was going to ask, how many modules are there in order for assistance? Is there a certain number, or is it just that customizable that you can just put whatever you want, however you want?
Right. So there are 5 basic programs.
Okay.
One of them is a personal library that's HIPAA compliant. It's private.
Okay.
Another one is a self-reporter tool that allows the user or the family to decide who gets to see the data that comes out of it and who gets to control the guides that are in it. There's a calendar and a scheduler feature. And then there's a private chat for individual and group chats with anyone who is pre-approved to have conversations with that person. And they have to be in the MyGuide system. So it's not like they're out there chatting on text, which parents worry about. And we get into AI a little bit in that area. And I know that scares people. I'm glad you mentioned that. But the kind of AI we use for the chat is that we have a robot, basically, that reads the text messages. So there's no person reading text messages, but we will find out if someone is cyberbullying, if someone's using profanity, if someone's using a website to try to take them out of the chat. So it's for protection, and you can set the AI controls to be filtered at certain levels.
Okay.
So yeah, there are different components that you can pick, and you don't have to do all of them. You can just start with a library, or you can just start with the chat, or whatever you want. And then we also have 10 fully established libraries.
Okay. Nice.
In health management or vocational services or mental wellness, cooking and nutrition, fitness. And then you can take those libraries that other people have used and donated to the community, copy it, and then paste it in your private library, and then change all the pictures and change your workout routine or change the picture of your bathroom instead of the one that was there. So it is extremely customizable, and it's easy to use. You don't have to be a techie to figure it out.
Is there a certain age group that you found it more beneficial? I'm sure earlier the better.
Yeah, it's...
Well, we got an attacker.
we got a mosquito. So that's a hard question to answer. Our youngest user is 3 years old with Down syndrome. Wow. And our oldest user is, I think, 73-ish with dementia. and everything in between. So it really does depend, and I hesitate to answer that question because then people walk away thinking, well, it's just for these people. So it's literally any condition and any age. But I think what I see the most is that transition age, because someone with special needs has a ton of support when they're kids. But when they move into adult services, they have mom and dad. That's it. Yeah. And so that's where the struggle begins with, mom and dad. Look, I know what he's saying, but I can't be with him all the time.
Correct.
And he knows how to operate in our house, but he doesn't know how to operate anywhere else. And so that seems to be the easiest to latch onto. Gotcha. But I would love to see, we do have some pilots with schools and early intervention. So some of the 3-year-olds and the elementary school kids, I'd love to see that too. It's hard to say, but that's kind of what I've seen today, mostly.
Well, I love hearing it to be so diverse and so, wide ranged, because there's so many times that I believe we do limit things that can be for a large group of audiences.
Right.
Well, this sounds like a very useful technology, and it's really cool to see, because people think technology, they think of video games and movies and crazy video effects and stuff, right. But it has become an amazing tool for not only everyone, but people with disabilities. It's literally life-changing for a lot of people, and especially, as you stated, parents with children, they can communicate now in new ways, which I'm sure for you has to be amazing and much less stressful. How has that changed your life? I mean, now that you have this technology, you're able to communicate with your son in a way where you can understand how he's feeling. I mean, how has that changed your life?
Dramatically. In fact, when he first graduated, and I thought, okay, this is kind of going to be up to me, we moved to a huge property out in nature to keep him de-stressed. We have a big lake, and that was going to be his forever home. It was big enough I could build another building on the property if I had to later, or he could live in the basement apartment. Like, I had all of these plans. And 6 years later, we're putting it on the market, and he's going to move 2 hours away because he has a job opportunity.
Wow.
I mean, I can't say how much it's changed, and people don't really believe me. It sounds too good to be true. But like I said, I think this is the first true breakthrough for people with gaps in cognitive functioning. It's just, I can't say enough about it. And if you just try, start with where you are. And technology is not a bad word. But, you mentioned the game thing. And I got to tell you, our users, they like games.
Yeah.
And we just recently added some gamification.
Oh, nice.
So we have MyGuide XP, which is experience points.
Okay.
And it's not like money where you can buy things. It's experience. And no one can ever take your experience away from you. So your number just keeps going up. Every time you open the app, every time you change a picture, every time you report how you're feeling, you get another couple of points. That's awesome. So they get to see that. And Daniel has some really cool things coming up. He says that technology is the great equalizer. And that someday, he envisions a world where you can't tell what anybody's disability is, inside or outside. Because we're all playing the same game.
Yeah. That is amazing.
That.
So people listening want to find out more about you guys, learn more, get involved, get this software for themselves. How do they find you guys?
So they can go to our website, which is mpm.care. They can also go to our YouTube channel, which is YouTube at MPower Me.
Okay.
And they can email us at info@mpm.care, or they can call us on our 800 number, which is 800-674-2943.
You got it.
Awesome sauce.
All right, Maria, thank you so much. I think what you're doing is amazing and
Yes.
is helping a lot of people. So thank you for that. And hopefully you can get some more people to check that out.
Yes.
Yes, people check it out because I am mind blown here.
Thank you so much for having me.
THS Remote Supports is clearly focused on improving independent living through dynamic and personalized services. Their systems have been carefully developed and perfected to ensure that everyone receives the best care through the least intrusive means possible. Located in Cincinnati, Ohio, they've spent over 20 years providing in-home supports to individuals with disabilities. If you or someone you know is looking for a remote service provider, go to thsrss.com or call 513-882-9088.